there, I'm Hassan Shazali and this is Lunchtime News on News First, where the people come first. Let's start off with a quick look at the headlines for this afternoon.
People's protest in Galface continues for the 5th consecutive day. Prime Minister ready to discuss with the protesters. The government must resign, including the President and the Prime Minister, says the coalition of 11 parties.
නිවැරදි පාලන තන්ත්‍රයක් ඇති කරනවා නම් මේ රට ස්ථාවර කිරීමේ පාලන තන්ත්‍රයක් ඇති කරන්න ඕනකම තියෙනවා නම් අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරයා ඇතුළු සමස්ත පාලන තන්ත්‍රයම ඉවත් වෙලා නව අග්‍රාමාත්‍යවරයෙක් ඇතුළු පාලන තන්ත්‍රයක් ඇති කරන්න.
Opposition leader signs no confidence motion and impeachment against the government and the President.
Now, protests are continuing to be held opposite the President's office against the rising issues in the country. Against this backdrop, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says he is ready to meet protesters at Galface who are protesting against the social, economic and political crisis in the country. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office said he would be willing to consider the proposals put forward by those involved in the demonstration. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has said that his office would be willing to invite the representatives for talks if they were ready to participate in discussions. Now, determined citizens are continuing protests opposite the President's office for the 5th day today. They're demanding the resignation of the President and the government for mismanaging the crisis in the country. Mariam Gunavijaya joins us with the latest.
The people's protest that is ongoing opposite the President's office in Galface, Green Colombo is currently continuing for the 5th consecutive day. Massive crowds have gathered here to protest against the government. They want the country to be handed over to someone who is able to resolve the current economic crisis that the country is facing. Massive crowds have gathered here despite it being a holiday for the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. The protesters here are displaying placards in various forms of art to show their support towards the protest. Traffic is starting to build up a bit, although the protesters are only protesting on either side of the road. Now, on that side of the protesting site, volunteers are distributing food, beverages and water bottles to the protesters, while on the other side, the protesters who have been here overnight, as I mentioned, the protest has been going on for 5 consecutive days. There are camps for the protesters who have stayed here overnight.
Protests are continuing opposite the President's office in Colombo for the 5th day today. Those involved in the demonstration had remained overnight at Galface. One protester was hospitalized today after falling ill during the ongoing demonstrations. Volunteers were seen distributing food, medicines and organizing sanitary facilities to support the protesters.
I feel there's no point calling for discussions and anything. The demands are pretty clear. So if you actually respect democracy, you say that you respect democracy, then listen to the people. That's all we're asking.
We are all fasting here, but still we came here because we can see the unity around, and we really support that as well. I think one thing we can thank him for doing.
මේ ගාල්ල මෝදර පිටියේ අපේ ජනතාව නොකඩවා වරුසාවේ දුක් විඳිනවා. මොකද මේ ජීවිතේ මෙල ඌල ගන්න බැරුව මේ වෙලාවේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වශයෙන් සිංහල ජාතිය වෙනුවෙන් පාරට බහින්න ඕන වෙලාවක්.
A ritual had been organized in Niyagama demanding the protection of the people who are rallying against the current administration. A demonstration had also been organized at the Kantale town yesterday.
Responsible Buddhist monks should set aside their greed for gifts such as fruit baskets and stand on the side of the people. If Buddhist monks are supporting useless politicians, then that doesn't count as an act of a monk.
Religious leaders from all faiths had organized a demonstration in Putlam yesterday.
මේ අරගලේ කරන්න ජනතාවේ හදකස්ම හඳුනාගෙන
We are carrying out this struggle by identifying the people's sentiment. We hope that the leaders of this country will address the needs of the people. Instead of dividing the country, these leaders must unite with the people and religious leaders. That is why we have gathered here.
While protests continue in the country, Sri Lankan expatriates are also adding their voice to the ongoing protests. They are demanding the resignation of the government and President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
I am the Prime Minister.
Sri Lankan expatriates had organized a protest in Oslo in Norway.
People of Oslo, please listen to us and support us.
In some news from the political spectrum, lawmakers from 11 political parties who have decided to sit independently in Parliament held a media briefing today. They said the government, including the Prime Minister, must resign from their position in the wake of the crisis that has affected the country.
The country's economy is in dire straits. We warned the government beforehand of this crisis, but the finance minister disregarded our warnings. We know that there is a risk in forming an interim government, but we have proposed for that because of the courage that lies within us. Unfortunately, they gave a state ministerial portfolio to Shanta Bandara a day after our meeting with the president. What can we do if they act like this during a crisis? We don't support this. Former Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa has not let go of things yet. If Basil Rajapaksa, who brought the country to this position, continues to act like this, we won't allow that to happen. Some members of our party ask why we oppose the Prime Minister. We don't have any personal issues against him. We stood with him a day after his election loss when Basil deserted him. We don't have personal deals with Mahinda Rajapaksa. We must understand the sentiments of the people. That is to change the government, including the Prime Minister. A new government that is accepted by the people must be formed. They gave a state ministerial position while we held discussions on this. If someone has bribed the minister, they might not be able to recover the money, but remove him from his state ministerial position. We can continue discussions if that's the case.
දූපු ඇමතිකම ආයි ගන්න. අරගෙන උන්හැව අවතැන් වූ බවට දේශපාලන අවතැන් වූ බවට පත් කරන්න. කරපු ගමන් අපි සූදානම් සාකච්ඡාවට. අද වෙනකොට ඇත්තටම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂයට තියෙන 108ක පිරිසක්.
The government now has only the support of 108 MPs and not 113. That is why they are using tactics such as offering money and positions to induce lawmakers to cross over to their side. A group surrounding the president made him disregard the advice of experts. They made him ignore Buddhist monks. Today we are facing the repercussions of this. Vimal and Uday, who worked tirelessly to bring him to power, were thrown away. He has 3 rogues around him who loot state assets and don't hold any responsibility. They work to fulfill their personal motives. They are manipulating the president. Those 3 people are trying to convince members of our party to join them by offering positions and money. The brothers have been exposed now. The trust held by the people on this government is diminishing daily. That is why the youth of this country, irrespective of any political affiliations, are chanting chanting Gota go home. It means they don't trust the Rajapakses anymore. They are also chanting Gota go to jail.
මලසකින් රාජපක්ෂවරු විශ්වාස කරන තැනකට පත් වෙලා නැහැ. උන් සියලු දෙනාට ගෙදර යන්න කියලා කියනවා. ඒකේ හැට ගිහිල්ලා Gota go home නෙවෙයි Gota go to jail කියලා කියනවා දැන්. ඒ තුන්දෙනා කවුද මේ මොහොම මේ ඩීල් එක දාන්නේ? එක්කෙනෙක් ජොන්ස්ටන් ප්‍රනාන්දු. අනිත් එක්කෙනා මහින්දානන්ද. අනිත් එක්කෙනා කවුද? රෝහිත අබේගුණා. මේ තුන්දෙනා මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේ ගෙවල් වලට යනවද? නෑ කතා කරනවා.
They have promised various things. They have told Minister Nimal Siripala de Silva that they will give him the Ministry of Health. They consider these ministerial portfolios as personal assets and then make promises.
මුට්ටුවගේ හිතාගෙන එක එක්කෙනාට අරක දෙන්නම් මේක දෙන්නම් කිය යෝජනා කරනවා.
එතකොට දැන් විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා විශ්වාස භංගය සඳහා මුදලා තියලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඔබතුමාලා ගන්න පියවර මොකක්ද?
තාමත් අපි දන්න තරමින් විශ්වාස.
Based on the details that we have, they haven't tabled one. If they bring one and need the support of our party, they should discuss that with us. All the parties supporting the no confidence motion should get together and discuss this. They need to propose the alternative leader. That is why we discussed personally with the opposition leader on the interim government and how it needs to be formed. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa has signed the impeachment motion against the president. He has also signed the no confidence motion that is to be brought against the government. Now, artists and social activists held a media briefing yesterday to discuss the current situation in the country.
The people always fulfilled their responsibility. They did everything they could to help the government. If the people are asking you to leave, you must leave. You are all just custodians, not the owners. The citizens are the actual owners of this country. Fulfill what is requested by the owners. There are only two groups. One that loves the country and the other that is a political group that does not love the country. However, what they have forgotten is that they were elected to parliament through the votes of the 22 million people. The general public is requesting the Rajapakses to go home. It is not that they do not understand this. They could have understood this if they have the senses of a human being.
දැන් අර ඥානක් කළ වගේ යක්කු බැඳගෙන වැඩ කරන්න ගත්තට පස්සේ මල පෙරේතය යක්කු තමයි මේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ඇතුළෙත් ඉන්නේ. මං හිතනවා ඒ නිසා මිනිස්සු වෙච්ච අපේ වේදනාව මේ මිනිස්සුන්ට දැන් දැනෙන්නේ නැහැ. මෙහෙම නෙමෙයි කොහොම කිව්වා. මේ රටේ තියෙන අර්බුදය.
Please understand the crisis in this country. If you don't, there is no point in you holding these positions. You filled your pockets all these days. You cannot stop this struggle by the people.
අගමැතිතුනේ තුච්ච නීච අසික්කිත තත්ත්වයට වැටෙන්නේ නැතුව මේ රටේ ජනතා පරමාධිපත්‍යයට ගරු කළා ඔබතුමන්ලා ඉල්ලා අස්වෙන්න.
Right now, onto a crisis that has continued to affect people in all parts of the country. Long queues were seen at many filling stations today as well. There's a growing shortage of petrol today compared to the previous days.
Long queues for petrol were observed at filling stations in Colombo and its suburbs today. The filling station run by Lanka IOC in Mavanella remained closed today. However, long queues were seen at the Sipetco filling station to purchase petrol and diesel. A filling station in Ambalangoda had run out of diesel. However, a long queue of people was seen to purchase petrol. Despite heavy rains experienced in the area, people were seen in queues to purchase fuel at the filling stations in Matara. Many filling stations in Kandy and its suburbs remained closed today, while long queues were seen to purchase petrol. People have been standing in queues for several weeks to purchase cooking gas. A gas dealership in Port Dela in Gaul received a new stock only after about a week today. A tense situation arose after the police intervened to distribute cylinders by giving priority to some people yesterday. A long queue for gas was also seen in Nagoda. Residents of Kandy blocked the Kandy-Durangwala road at the Durangwala junction last evening.
The shortage of dollars in Sri Lanka has affected the importation of gas, cooking gas, fuel and even essentials like milk powder. Now, the Finance Ministry has published an order extending the import restrictions on about 376 goods considered to be non-essential. The restrictions were to lapse on the 9th of April. The Finance Ministry said the decision to extend the restrictions was made considering the current economic situation in the country. Many items including fruits, dairy products and electrical appliances have been classified as non-essential goods. Now, a consignment of 16,000 metric tons of rice imported under an Indian credit line reached the Colombo port.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka State Trading Corporation, Yoga Pereira, said the consignment includes 7,000 metric tons of ponni samba, 2,000 metric tons of white kakulu rice. The rice consignment will be distributed and sold via Satosa outlets from today. A kilogram of ponni samba will be sold at 130 rupees and a kilogram of white kakulu rice will be sold at 110 rupees. According to the Sri Lanka State Trading Corporation, another portion of the rice consignment imported under the Indian credit line is set to reach Sri Lanka next week.
In rest of the day's stories, authorities have arrested 6 people with 300 kilograms of heroin and 25 kilograms of a narcotic identified as ice from a fishing vessel in the southern seas today. The raid had been carried out by the Sri Lanka Navy, the State Intelligence Service and the Police Narcotics Bureau. Navy spokesperson Captain Indika De Silva said the suspects and the seized narcotics are being brought to show. Now, tomorrow is the Sinhala and Tamil New Year, but with the rocketing prices of goods and people being forced to stand in queues, many say they won't be able to enjoy the festival. However, some have taken it upon themselves to alleviate the woes of the people to the best of their capacity.
Life is a mixture of all emotions ranging from happiness to grief. The worsening crisis has made life difficult for people already grappling with several issues. This is the time to bring some hope for such families. Gammadda took the initiative to distribute food provisions amongst as many of these families as possible. The objective is to keep as many people possible happy for the Sinhala and Tamil New Year festival. It was thanks to the kindness and generosity of donors who stepped forward to help that Gammadda was able to help these needy families. Yes, we cannot help everyone who needs help, but that is not a reason to do nothing. Gammadda, by the people, for the people.
Onto a tragic story developing overseas. At least 53 people have been killed in landslides and floods after Tropical Storm Maggie devastated the Philippines.
Rescue crews were still seeking to find survivors in flooded villages today, digging through mud and wading through chest-high water. Officials say, however, the death toll from Sunday's natural disaster is only expected to climb. Villages around Bay City in central Leyte province are worse hit. There, hillside avalanches and overflowing rivers wiped out homes and buried many people alive. The city's mayor, Jose Carlos Carri, told foreign media that at least 47 people in the area had been killed. In one village, Pilar, about 80% of the houses had been washed out to sea. Officials say more than 100,000 people in southern and eastern Philippines islands have been affected by the storm.
In sports, it's some positive news for the fans of the Chennai Super Kings. Now, Chennai Super Kings registered their first victory at this year's edition of the Indian Premier League cricket tournament. They defeated Royal Challengers Bangalore by 23 runs last evening. Sri Lankan spinners Wanindu Hasaranga and Mahesh Theekshana featured for Royal Challengers Bangalore and Chennai Super Kings respectively.